The next stage is the actual mixing early reflections and reverberation. So all I do now, one by one, I add these to each of these instrument tracks. I'm going to add my spatial pan plugin. So, and label them as we go. So this is going to be the guitar. Can't type. There we go. It's the guitar. Again, spatial pan. We'll call that bass. Oh, yes, and I should have moved that off to the side so I can figure out which one's what. This is going to be the organ, somewhere there. It's going to be the left overhead. Chuck it over here somewhere. This one's going to be the right overhead. Chuck it over here somewhere. This is the snare top. I don't know, chuck it there maybe, just for the time being. This is the call it snare bottom slash BD, because it's bass drum as well. This one bass drum. Chuck it up here somewhere. And the last one. This is going to be the small tom. And there we go. That's everything. So now, when I play it back, you will hear wall reflections. Except my default room size is way too big, so not a very clever default, but it's just the way it is. I'll reduce it, so I'll make the width something like 25. Something like that. I need to reduce the height. Around about 5 meters maybe, something like that. And then we just start moving things around. actually, one thing I should probably do is check that my snare and tom placement is consistent with the overheads. So yeah, if I just solo the overheads, I should be able to figure out where everything is. So according to that, it sounds like the snare is on the right hand side and the small tom is on the left. So if I go back, so that sounds reasonable to me. Now, the final icing on the cake. This doesn't have any reverb tail. It's just early reflections off the walls. So what do we want to do? What we want to do now is add that reverb tail to the picture, which we can do easily enough just by putting in my synthetic space reverb. And then because we're using spatial panning, I don't want the discrete early reflections, so I'll turn that aspect of it off. And this room size sounds way too big, so I'll reduce it a bit. Have to do is crank up the levels. So see, I've got quite a bit of headroom here. So that's starting to sound pretty realistic. Now, just to confirm what effect the presence of early reflections and reverberation actually does to the sound of everything, I'll go through the process of switching things on and off. So, as in switching off the walls in the first place, then the reverb, and then bringing them back in afterwards. So here we go. That's the early reflections gone. Without the reverb and the early reflections, it sounds quite bland. So now we add the walls back in. Immediately it sounds like it's in a bigger space. You've got some spatial definition there of a room, but there's no reverb tail. But you'll notice that the transient material actually sounds a lot more interesting with those wall reflections. Now we add in the reverb, and it sounds much more like a real room now. Didn't even realise that I've got the volume turned down a bit as well. So it's potentially a lot louder. So there you have it. And you should note that, yes, there's no surround sound here. There's no binaural headphone trickery going on. This is just plain stereo. It's just a plain stereo recording. But it sounds really quite impressive, even in headphones. A very detailed and quite broad stereo image. So that's basically, in a nutshell, my approach to mixing. Now, obviously there's a lot more to mixing than just that, because you can do a whole bunch of effects on top of that to, I don't know, add artistic license and content if you want, you know, painting various pictures or whatever. But the point is, behind this technique, once you've actually got that basis, this fundamental basis of your recording set up, then whatever you want to add after this is going to be a very easy job. It's not going to be difficult, and it's highly unlikely that it's going to throw any spanner into the works and make things sound bad, because you've taken care of the equalization, you've taken care of the dynamics, and you have your reverberation, spatial panning all in place, everything working in tandem to make a nice sounding mix. So whatever you add to it from now on should be an easy job. Whereas if you didn't go through the process of actually taking care of the equalization issues and taking care of the dynamics issues, you're likely to have mixing issues whenever you start adding extra instruments with things like masking going on, and you'll be continually fiddling around with relatively primitive EQ plugins to try and address those issues, and probably not making the most of what can be achieved, and not making the most of your time. Whereas now, once you've actually done that prep work, even if you want to take one of those channels and say create an AM radio sound by applying one of the stock standard EQs applied or supplied in a particular DAW, you can actually do it now and have little or no issues with regard to additional masking related issues because of non-uniformity in the spectral content of the instruments. It's all sorted, so it should all work relatively painlessly from here on in, whatever you do. And that's the whole benefit of this approach. But I'll leave it at that.